10, 15, 20 years ago, I could have never imagined that the internet would empower Zambian women to create platforms where they would openly challenge patriarchy and gender nonconformity. Well, that is what my talk is about today. My name is Chishimba Kasanga, a final year Master's in Journalism and Media Studies student at Rhodes University. And the title of my presentation today is This May Not Be Your Grandmother's Page, but we'll definitely talk about her, Lusaka Women and the Zambian Feminist Facebook page. So the internet has facilitated the creation of a global community of feminists who use it both for discussion and activism. Scholars and commentators argue that the internet has enabled a shift from a third wave feminism to a fourth wave feminism. The fourth wave feminism is defined by online platforms such as blogs, Twitter, and Facebook campaigns that support women to build strong, popular online movements. So these digital platforms have been used to connect with women all over the world and create campaigns on various issues that affect women. Some highly recent profile campaigns have been the hashtag #MeToo and the hashtag #InMyNext that have gathered massive support online, attracting tens of thousands of women in diverse social and geographical spaces who have used the internet to share their experiences with sexual abuse and sexual assault. However, there are still parts of the world where feminism still remains a contentious topic, and one such a place is Zambia. And the face of this contention is a Facebook page called the Zambian Feminist, which aims to challenge patriarchy and gender nonconformity in a highly heteronormative society. Zambian Feminist is a lively Facebook page with over 32,000 followers. It was founded in 2018 and identifies as a community of feminists in Zambia. The founder of the page decided to create this platform after watching the Harvey Weinstein sexual assault accusations. After she realized that if women in developed countries struggle to openly talk about their experiences with sexual assault, what more women in Zambia? She created this platform to be a safe space where women can share experiences and gain support. The page posts a variety of topics from patriarchy, GBV, rape, and cultural practices that affect women in Zambia. But what caught my attention as a follower of the page and the researcher is the boldness of the page admin to post topics which are deemed as private, women only, or sacred on a public forum like Facebook. So for instance, in this post, the page admin is talking about a cultural practice of labia elongation among women. She presents this in form of a well-written dialogue between a matriarch and a girl who has not elongated her labia, and accompanies this with a meme. In the comment section is where women from different walks of life come to either contest or negotiate what has been presented to them. In this second example, she's openly challenging the ideology of Zambia as a Christian nation. Zambia is predominantly Christian. About 80 to 90% of the population identify as Christian. But in this post, she's talking about how this ideology has been used to silence members of the LGBTIQ community. And again, in the comment section is where people come to either contest or negotiate what has been presented to them. In this other post, she openly shares her own experience with sexual assault. This was during the #InMyNext movement, and in the comment section is where women also come to share their experiences and give support to one another. This study focused on how frequent Lusaka women contributors to the Zambian Feminist Facebook page contest, negotiate, and appropriate the meanings they make from the post and their associated comments into their daily lives as self-proclaimed feminists. Further questions arise from this. First, do women contributors feel supported expressing their views on this platform given Zambia's patriarchal context? And second, what role has the page played in participants' understanding of gender politics and their role as feminists in Zambia's gender and equal society? This study was a qualitative study. I purposefully sampled 19 prolific Lusaka women fans of the Zambian Feminist Facebook page. These women are fans who not only engage with the comments, but also share what is posted on the page on their own social media platforms. This research is a reception study. It inquires into how Lusaka women fans of the Zambian Feminist Facebook page negotiate their roles as strong feminists online and their offline roles as women living in a patriarchal society. I conducted 5 focus groups with about 3 to 5 participants in each and 5 individual interviews. Some very interesting findings emerged from the data. One of the things that came out is how these women fans negotiate their online identity versus their online identity. So online, there are these brave feminists who are challenging patriarchy, but offline, they're still wives, mothers, sisters, and women living in a patriarchal context. So in this excerpt, these are all excerpts from the focus group discussions. In the first one here, we meet Harriet, a marketing executive. She talks about how she feels that social media is a place where she can take off her frustrations and how she feels very small and powerless in the real world. She talks about how she openly talks about sexism in the workplace, but it's something she fails to tackle head on offline because she fears she might lose her job, and how she feels that this is a betrayal of herself as she is not as strong as she wishes she could be. In the second extract, we meet Nosiku, a high school teacher, who talks about how she is powerful online and can go head to head the whole night arguing or contesting her point, but offline, when somebody asks her if she's a feminist, she has denied being a feminist. And she talks about how denying being a feminist is not rejection of her truth, but it's just for fear of being ostracized in social settings. Here we meet Chanda, an activist who talks about how she has grown into becoming one person, and the Chanda you now get online is a Chanda you get everywhere, whether she's at work or with her kids. She's a feminist everywhere, and she's a strong woman everywhere. So another interesting finding that emerged from the data is how these women participants negotiate their Christian identity and their feminist identity. So like I mentioned earlier, Zambia is predominantly Christian. About 80 to 90% of the population identify as Christians. So these women fans of the page now have to negotiate their Christian values against their feminist values. So in the first extract, we meet Beauty, a university student. She's talking about the LGBTIQ community. She begins by first putting a disclaimer and saying, identify as Christian. And she talks about how growing up in Zambia, she didn't quite understand issues concerning the LGBTIQ community. But after being exposed and traveling, at one point she even had a neighbor who didn't identify with the pronouns he or she, but they, and how confused she was, and how she has now come to a realization that you just have to respect other people's orientations. Then in the second extract, we meet Nomsa, a lawyer, who says she is pro-choice, and how she negotiates this is by bringing in Christianity and saying that she feels God is a respecter of choice and that everybody should respect everybody else's choice, especially what they choose to do with their bodies or how they choose to live their lives. And she urges those people in power to just let people be the best way they know how. This study was also a window into how women who identify as members of the LGBTIQ+ community negotiate their identity while living in a highly heteronormative society. So in this extract, we meet Nosiku again, the high school teacher, who talks about how she identifies as pansexual and has had experiences with both men and women, and how she had to use the internet to search for how she feels, and pansexual was that for her. She talks about how she will not openly come out and talk about it because she feels she's not confident enough. And she says it's something that she knows for herself and she doesn't need to push it down people's throats. Then we meet Chanda again, the activist, who talks about how she is openly gay, and she knows that when asked how big the gay community is, she says it's probably half of the population. It's just that people are in the closet and people don't want to come out because they're afraid of the Christian nation ideology. In conclusion, While the internet has given voice to women and empowered them to call out and challenge patriarchy, sexism, misogyny, the offline space is more difficult to overcome. Zambian women continue to conform to patriarchal norms as they negotiate their feminism in line with the broader societal gender order. But this does not mean that digital activism is not effective, as women are now learning the language and now have a platform to openly challenge patriarchy and gender nonconformity. Thank you.